Welcome to the Small Giants Fishbowl. This topic is successfully integrating mindfulness into your leadership culture. Join us for this interactive fishbowl with Small Giants leader and mindfulness expert, Rob Dube. Rob is the author and founder of Do Nothing, the most rewarding leadership challenge you will ever take. In this fishbowl, you'll learn how meditation will help you become a more mindful leader and person, and how to bring calm energy into your leadership and understand the benefits of taking an annual retreat with no distractions. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for taking some time out today. Before we get started, I'm going to issue a couple challenges today. You can take them or you don't have to. It's totally up to you. But we're going to start with the first challenge. This is a tough one, especially on these fishbowl/webinar type things. And that first thing I'm going to ask you is to take your phone and consider putting it on silent, or if you really want to be daring, turn it off. And then if you could put it out of sight or upside down or something like that. Of course, if you have important family matters that you need to attend to, that's completely understandable. But oftentimes our devices just distract us, especially on these types of video webinars. And the other thing I'm going to challenge, if you're in an office where somebody might come in and distract you, or even if you're out and about in a common area, try to be someplace where you can't be interrupted. And so, either shut your door or put up a little sign maybe that says, "Don't disturb." That way somebody might not walk up to you and ask you a quick question. The other thing is you might have your screens up, you might have multiple screens, and I'd like for you to consider closing all your browsers except for the one that's got the video up. And that way you won't be tempted to look at your email or anything else on the internet in the moment at which you get bored with what I'm about to talk about today, because at some point I'm sure your mind is going to start to wander if it hasn't already. And so that's a first challenge that I'll put forth to you, because we're here to learn about meditation and mindfulness, and what a better way to do that than to ensure that we're not distracted. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to ask you to do with me is to take a minute to arrive. I know many of you have come from busy places. I saw one person was even driving. So you're going to or coming from busy places. You have busy lives. And I know at Image one of the things that we really enjoy starting our meetings with is this concept of a minute to arrive, which we learned from Search Inside Yourself, which is a meditation workshop. And so if we could start that way right now, and I'm just going to go through a quick setup while we do that. So just, follow along with me if you're not already somebody who has kind of a meditation posture, and then we'll sit quietly for a minute. So I'd like to ask you to just sit upright, and if you could take your back off the back of your chair, that would be great if it's comfortable for you, because you'd like to be supporting yourself. Please know that if that's not comfortable, make yourself comfortable first and foremost, and just place your hands on your legs. And as you're sitting upright, just feel the sensation of your feet on the ground. And so you'll want your feet firmly planted on the ground, on the earth. Just kind of feel that sensation. And feel your bottom on the seat. And then your hands on your legs, and kind of feeling that sensation of what that is. And then your posture upright, not too rigid and not too soft. And then tilting your chin downward slightly. And then depending on how you feel, you can leave your eyes slightly open with kind of a blurry gaze, maybe a couple feet in front of you, or you can just close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes. And as you sit here, just work on paying attention to your breath, focusing on your breath in through your nose and down into your midsection. And wherever it stops, back up and out through your nose. And inevitably, as we sit here for a minute, you'll have many thoughts entering into your mind, and that's completely normal. In fact, the entire minute might be full of that. And again, that's entirely normal. But if you can, do your best to bring your awareness back to your breath. And so we'll sit here quietly for just a minute, and then we'll get started. Okay. Thank you all for participating in that with me, and welcome. You have arrived. And I'd like to start by asking you all a question. And I can't see all of you, but I can only imagine what your answers will be. But by show of hands, how many of you lead busy and sometimes stressful lives? Yes, of course. From what I could see, it seems that just about everybody does. About 100% is usually what I find when I ask that question. And you know, when we talk about meditation, it's often about taking care of yourself first. You know, we're so busy juggling our jobs and caring for other people at home, and it's important to remember that you can't give 100% to others if you don't have 100% to give. And knowing that you have to take care of yourself before you can adequately take care of others. And that's easier said than done. So I'd like to ask you to think about for a second a typical busy day. So using that posture that we just went through, that setup, just kind of sitting upright. I'd like to ask you to kind of visualize, eyes open or closed, whatever you're comfortable with. I'd like you to visualize a typical busy day. Where are you? Just picture that in your mind's eye. What time of day is it? And who is with you? And so capture that picture in your mind's eye. Now that you've done that, I want you to tap in. What do you feel? What are some of the emotions? Are you happy, sad, anxious, calm, energized, tired? Do you have tension in your body? Do you have butterflies in your stomach? Or maybe you just feel completely relaxed. So don't try to change the sensations that you feel. Just follow them wherever they're leading you and observe those feelings without judgment. And that's a really important component to this, without judgments. Okay. I'm curious if anybody would be willing to share some of the emotions. Rachel, I'm not sure the best way to do this, whether it's to have type in or and you can read them, or ask people to talk. So I'll leave, if that's okay, I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, sure. So anyone, if you want to just wave your hand, we can call on you, unmute you. What do you think? Yeah, David.
Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted. We can hear you.
All right. Well, it was a great question because the past 2 days, I've just been back-to-back appointments and phone calls and texts and emails and family obligations. And anyone that knows me knows I'm a pretty, fun-loving, easygoing guy. But man, I was ready to just, go to a deserted island and be by myself and just say goodbye, everybody. So it was very frustrating, actually. Just the pressure, and I was short. I was short with my friends and short with my family. Short fuse. My son thought I was being funny. He asked me if I was going through menopause, and I just don't like myself when I'm like that, and so I was very much looking forward to this webinar today.
That's fantastic.
Thanks, David. Anybody else? All right, Rob, we'll kick it.
We got Mike.
And Mike, by the way, nice mug. You guys, I don't know if you
saw. Oh, yeah.
Science mug. We love that.
Yeah, I got the plug. Yep. Generally, I think for me, it's generally a feeling of anxiousness. Sometimes I get that. Like if I'm that stressed, it'll be almost like a pit in my stomach. But it's not real frequent. But whenever it all kind of piles up, that's what it feels like.
That's very common. Thank you for sharing. Common things that I hear when I ask that question to groups are anxiety, stress, and physical sensations like tightness in their shoulders or their lower back. Those seem to be some of the more common. I do see there's a chat. Okay, that's just us getting started. Okay, cool. Next question for everybody, and you can type this one in if this makes sense, Rachel, but I'm curious what brought you here today. What was the driver to you saying, I'm going to take time out of my day and sit on the Fishbowl? So again, whatever's best, whether it be type it in or answers.
Yeah, we'll give everybody just a minute if you want to type it in.
Cool.
But again, if you're on video, feel free to wave your hand and we'll unmute you. Let's see, we see community, trying to be a better team leader. Those are great. What else? Let's get a couple more. Yes, I see. Okay. Is it Tanya?
Yes.
There you go.
Can you hear me? Yes. Sorry, I'm in the car, so I can't type for obvious reasons.
Yes, we're glad you're not typing.
Or meditating.
Thank you. No, that was a tough one because I love meditating. Actually, I took up the practice in November last year, and I've been enjoying it very, very much, and it's been helping me. For me to come here today was the one single word: mindfulness. Taking better care of myself, which is urgently needed.
Fantastic. Okay.
So, thank you for that.
Great. Okay. Well,
chats to Rob. I don't know if you want to hear them, but working on a personal meditation practice, wanting to be a more peaceful leader, trying to learn to meditate, bringing some peace, delivering better health to myself. Our organization is going through lots of changes. Everything is going fast. Mindfulness seems like it's ignored these days. Want to integrate it into our daily practice and trying to find new ways to grow. So some themes coming up.
Those are good. Also very common. Okay. I'm going to go back and share my screen again. Okay. So at my company, at Image One, we start by talking about what we call the Simple Six. And these are the 6 things, and there's more, but we just picked 6. These are the 6 things that we all know we need to be mindful of and do more of, but it's hard to execute on them as much as we'd like. And as you see them, you'll see that they're obvious. It's getting enough sleep. It's eating right. it's moving or exercising, it's connecting with other people, other humans, expressing gratitude, and of course, meditate. And as leaders and as team members or employees, we all are very aware of emotional intelligence. It's talked about more than ever these days. But as leaders, it's a really important thing for us to be focused on. And Daniel Goleman, in his book, Emotional Intelligence, talks about the three key components to it, which is self-awareness, the ability to self-manage, and empathy. And one thing I always find interesting is many people are self-aware, and they'll say that to you, but the real question is can they self-manage? And that's a great question for you, because being self-aware doesn't give us an excuse to not be at our best. Being at our best means we're self-managing the things that cause us to not be our best. So why meditate? Why cultivate mindfulness? Well, not unlike a child, a baby who's very sad, just having awareness of our feelings and our physical sensations is important as we make our way through our day. For example, when the baby's crying, they're usually tired, hungry, they need to go to the bathroom, or they just need some human connection, like a hug. We're no different. And when a young child is having a tantrum, what do us adults often say? Why don't you go sit in that chair and breathe in and breathe out and breathe in and breathe out and calm down, and then we can talk once you calm down. But as adults, we don't do that, and usually our tantrums are happening up here and not outwardly, although sometimes that does happen. I'm guilty. But we don't find the time. Many of us have a hard time finding the time to sit down and do that, to simply go sit in that chair and breathe in and breathe out. And just a quick background on my story. That's the actual chair where I took my internal tantrum the first time I ever meditated. I had sold my business in 2004, and in 2005, in the summer, during 8 months into this 3-year employment contract I had with the buyer, I was on vacation with my family, and it was a very stressful time in my life. And at this particular day, my family was out enjoying the day. I was inside working on a project, and I was really frustrated. I was on the verge of tears. I'd read about meditation. I was curious about it, but I'd never done anything. I never actually tried it, but I remembered kind of what it said to do. And I just looked over at that chair and I said, Rob, just go sit in that chair and breathe in and breathe out. And that's what I did. And I committed to doing it for 5 minutes. And at the end, I actually felt a little bit better. My problems didn't go away and my frustrations were ever present, but I actually felt a little bit better. And, so I thought, maybe there's something to this. Now, growing up, I had a lot of anxiety and stress. I had some health issues, and I also had some disruption in my family. In the 9th grade, my best friend and I, Joel Perlman, Joel's there on the right with the flower on his lapel, we actually started selling these blow pop lollipops out of our locker. And we would buy them for a nickel and resell them for a quarter. And that, I think, got our entrepreneurial juices flowing. And when we got to college, we used to go to a place that many people in the Small Giants community are very familiar with. We would go to a place called Zingerman's Deli. At the time, it was much smaller than the version it is today. It was just a small deli in the building that you see here. And this picture, taken less than 2 years ago, is the same exact scene that you would have seen when we were there. And so we would stand in that line and feel the energy of the team and the employees at Zingerman's, and then you get inside and you'd experience everything that goes along with what they do there at Zingerman's. And if Joel and I were lucky enough to sit at one of the cafe tables, they only had a few at that time, and be able to eat in the deli, we would just look around and marvel at what they were doing there. And I remember us saying to each other, if we ever have a business of our own, this is what we've got to do. We've got to have this kind of experience. And so who knew that in 1991 that when we were graduating college with little to no in the prospects in the way of getting an actual job, that we would start the business that we own and operate today, Image One. And so we set off and started the business out of the basement. Around that same time, about a year later, I decided to get married, and a couple years later, my wife and I had our first child. So within the span of like 3 or 4 years, I had started a business with my best friend. We were making no money. I was taking $50 a week for basically to fill up our cars for gas. And I got married and had a child. I was living at my dad's house. It was the absolute worst. Every time I talk about it, that's a genuine laugh, because it's nuts what we went through. But to say the least, it did not help with the stress and anxiety that I had built up at a young age. And so back to that chair, that's the time in my life that I like to refer to as pre-chair Rob. And it's the time where I started to wonder if meditation might be useful for me in my life. But I'm a fact finder, so I wanted to learn more about all aspects of meditation to make sure it was really for me. And so I learned a bit about the facts. And I'm going to go fast through here, because you can find out all this information and in a Google search, and you could spend 24 hours straight with any bit of information you want in the world. But essentially, I learned there were 6,800 articles or studies since 1972, 3,100 between 2014 and 2016, because it's a time when it's really started to come to the forefront as something more than maybe as people thought of it before. I learned that branches of the military were incorporating meditation and mindfulness. Places like the Virginia Military Institute, where all incoming cadets are required to take a class which they have called modern warriorship. They learn how to meditate and how to keep a practice going. And then I learned that companies all over the world were incorporating meditation into their health and wellness programs. I use Aetna as an example often, because I had the good fortune to be able to interview their CEO, Mark Bertolini, for my book. And he's an avid meditator and had gotten through some health challenges, and he attributes that to his meditation practice and his yoga practice. And so when he took over at Aetna, they were struggling. Their stock price was in the 30s, and he realized that people were extremely stressed, and so they incorporated the program at Aetna. Now the workshops are consistently booked. There's a waiting list to get into them, and they recently sold to CVS for, I think it was a $96 billion transaction. Last time I looked at their stock price, I think pre-acquisition, it had gone from 30 when he took over to well over 200. And when I talked to him, I said, well, why do you think your stock price has raised so much? And he said, well, because we're all meditating. So, I mean, if there isn't a better reason to meditate than that, from a business standpoint, what else do you want? Okay, I'm just kidding. That isn't why he believes the stock price went up. There's a zillion reasons why it went up. But the thing that he said that stuck out in my mind was that he just recognized that people were easier to work with. And I don't know if you can really put a price on that or a metric to it. And so, you guys, you shared with me, some of the reasons that you joined today. And it seems as though many of you are curious and interested, and there's community aspects, trying to maybe advance your practice in your mind. All awesome reasons. The thing that I like to share with people is that you've started, and you're here, and you're curious, and you're looking more deeply at it, trying to understand it better, or trying to go to a different place with it. And so you're on a journey. And the thing about meditation that's really important to remember, and I like to use a couple phrases from our Small Giants friends, one being Jack Stack. And Jack always says, you gotta wanna. And so you gotta wanna stay on this journey. You gotta wanna know that this is a useful tool for you. Anise Kavanaugh, another friend of the Small Giants community, says, where is it on your want meter? Is it 1, 5, or 9, or 10? If it's 9 or 10, you're going to stick with it. If it's 5, it's probably going to drop off. And then Yoda, not a friend of the Small Giants community per se, but Yoda says, do or do not. There is no try. So all of this leads to commitment. And why would we make this commitment to this mindfulness meditation practice and going on this journey, where many have meditated for some period of time and oftentimes say, I just don't feel a difference? Well, the reason that we do it, first of all, is, most of us lead extremely stressful and busy lives, as we learned at the beginning. And quite frankly, stress makes us stupid. I mean, that's at the end of the day, some of the worst decisions are made when we're under stress and we're feeling anxious. And that happens all the time to us. And so we have this meditation practice because we want to be more clear-headed in that meeting. And you might not even recognize sometimes that you are more clear-headed. It just kind of takes on a life of its own. And obviously that helps for you to be a better leader. People want to have more of a feeling of calm, less of a feeling of anxiety. Again, when you have that calm coming in with you to the people that you're affecting so much on your teams and in your companies, of course that leads to better leadership. Sleep, on the Simple 6 that we went through. Sleep is the number. We did a survey at our company. Over 60% of the people in my company, and we have 65 people, get 6 hours of sleep per less. And the vast majority of those people say it's just not enough. And the meditation practice really helps people with sleep. That's been shown. And so when you've got a better night's sleep, then you show up in a much better way as a leader. And I know that you all want to be your best. You want to be better leaders. You want to be better people. And because we meditate to get better at life at the end of the day. And we do it so we can pause in that moment between stimulus and response. And in that moment, and it's just a sliver of a moment, that moment is so critical in the way that you show up and the way that you react, because you can change the trajectory as it relates to you as a leader of your team members, of your vendors, of your customers' days. And when you have the ability in that moment between stimulus and response to catch yourself and maybe hold back from what you might reactively say, that's such a gift. That's such a gift. And that's what this journey is doing for you. This journey of meditation shows up when you least expect it. And so there aren't instantaneous results. It's just something you do. You just do it. It's a daily thing you do, like brushing your teeth. And for those of you that don't have a regular practice or have struggled, here's my other challenge to you, It's commit. Just like Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try. You do need to commit. I mean, you guys are the sorts of people that commit to stuff. You know, you make stuff happen. You decided to get into business. Many of you are entrepreneurs and leaders. And when you decide you're doing something, you're doing it, because that's what makes you successful. So you need to commit. And I don't need to share with you how to commit. You know, 21-day habit, 30-day habit, do it for 90 days straight, whatever works for you. You guys know your best tendencies, and you guys know what's going to make you stick with something. So that's just what you got to do. You got to wanna, where is it on your want meter, and commit for whatever that period of time is. And it's going to start showing up when you least expect it. Okay, the next thing that I want to share with you is a curiosity that people have about meditation retreats. And I started going on meditation retreats a good number of years ago for the same reason that others are curious. I went on a one-day retreat, and there was no talking during it. And I was scared to death when I went. I flew all the way out to California for it. And I didn't know how I was going to be able to do it, but I figured I'd give it a shot. And what I learned during that time was it really wasn't all that big of a deal to be silent for a day. And after I'd done it, I really felt clearer-minded. And that was just for one day. And that piqued my curiosity. And I started doing retreats twice a year, 7 to 10 days in length. And every time I go, prior to, my mind's wired, I'm busy, I have a lot going on, I'm used to looking at my phone, my devices, or whatever the case might be. I've got my meetings and my family commitments and all those kinds of things. And so I just don't know how I'm going to be able to do it. But I know the end result is worth the time investment and the emotional investment, and that's why I do it. And so I make that a priority in my life. And after one of them, I thought, you know, other leaders might find this something they might find useful. And maybe I'll share a little bit about my experiences, and maybe others will find it something they want to try out and be curious about, like I was, and maybe others won't. There's no right or wrong, but I just wanted to share that with people. And that's one of the things that it was really the reason I did the book. And so what happens on a retreat? The first thing I like to share is that when there was a point in time where somebody asked me, what happens on the retreats? And right before I was about to answer the question, they kind of answered it for me, like, what do you do? Just sit around and do nothing? And that's literally how the name of the book and this whole do nothing stuff came about. So do you do nothing? Kind of, but not really. You know, you're going to learn how to meditate, you know, more in depth than what I just taught you. And you're just going to get reinforcement consistently, and then you'll just feel more confident about stuff. You're going to be able to ask questions about things that pop up in your mind about what you're feeling when you're meditating, and are you doing it right, which you already are. You're going to have curiosities about your mind, about your body, about sense perception around you and your thoughts, and you're going to be able to have those clarified. You'll learn mindfulness skills. You'll do a body scan where you lay down and you feel so many parts of your body in your mind's eye, from your toe all the way on up to the tip of your head, in a way that you never did before. And you'll start to say, oh, wow, like I forgot I had that part of my body, and that's serving me really well. You'll learn things like mindful walking and mindful eating and mindful connecting, and connecting in a way through energy, through the energy that we exude day in and day out, not through our normal way of doing it where we're conversing amongst each other. And you'll learn mindful routines that you can incorporate in your life. These are just the little things that I like to call nuggets that keep you in the present moment and fully aware. On most retreats that are silent in nature, the rule of thumb would be obviously no talking, but also no reading or writing, and even to a certain extent, no eye contact, because you're really going within during this period of time. There are lots of retreats out there from the West Coast to the East Coast and everywhere in between. They vary in length. Some could be a day, some could be, years. I'm sure most of you aren't looking for that, although I think I saw one person who's on the call who I spoke with yesterday who went on a 3-year retreat. And so if you have questions about retreats, or you're doing some research, or you don't even know where to start, give me a shout. I'm happy to help you. Send me a note. I've investigated tons of retreat centers. I've been to numerous retreat centers and done retreats at those places. So I'm happy to help you in any way. Generally speaking, they're in the settings are oftentimes beautiful, which certainly helps, but is not a requirement. I did start a retreat. I was very passionate about it. So I'm not here to stump for my retreat. I'm just here to give you a passionate explanation about what the Do Nothing retreat is all about. And but I'm happy again to help. They're all excellent, and there's one for you, and this one might not be it. And so I designed Do Nothing's retreat around a leader's schedule. I actually did a survey of about 25 really super busy leaders around the country to understand what kind of time they felt like they could get away, what part of the week they felt they could do it, what time of the year, and all that kind of thing. And so with that in mind, the retreat agenda starts with a travel day on the first day, which is a Monday, and people start to arrive around 3 o'clock, and then around 5 o'clock we get started, and we do some housekeeping. And at this particular location, which happens to be in the Colorado Rockies, it's very beautiful, very expansive. There's tons of hiking trails. You could go on forever, miles and miles. And so there's some instruction about the land, and then some practice. You start to actually learn the practice of meditation with a professional teacher or facilitator. On the second day, there's morning practice, morning instruction with the facilitator. The entire thing is facilitated. And then in the afternoon, silence begins. We ease into it again with the instruction of the facilitator. On the third day, we're completely silent the entire day. You're going through instruction and practice. You are, again, when I say you're going through instruction, that means you're hearing things, you're just not talking. There is a brief period of speaking where there's breakouts for Q&A, and obviously during that period of time, talking is allowed. On the fourth day, in the morning, we come out of silence, and there's a little bit of a tradition around that, and it's extremely powerful. In the retreats that I've attended and the one that I hosted last year, it was very impactful for 100% of the attendees, and you start to feel this experience that you just went through with new friends and old friends alike. And then you depart after lunch, and if you choose to go straight home, you're home by bedtime. Otherwise, it's a great time if you're in the Colorado area. This particular retreat center where we host it is very close in proximity to Fort Collins, Boulder, and Denver, so you have your choice of 3 amazing places if you'd like to take a long weekend or meet up with some of the other group to share your experiences or have people meet you out there. And so that's a little bit about my retreat experience and why I've been so passionate. And now I want to take you back to that chair. And this is the time in my life that I like to call Postcheerup. It's the time where I feel that I'm a more aware and present person. I'm far from perfect, but I do have a little bit better awareness of that moment between stimulus and response. And in 2006, we had a really unique opportunity to buy our company back, and we chose to do so. And at that time, I had just started my meditation practice. I was only maybe a year or so into it, but I started to feel a different energy. And I got a call from from Maggie Bayless, who runs Zing Train up in Ann Arbor, and she was encouraging me to take the visioning workshop, the first one that they were ever hosting, and Ari Weinsweg was going to teach it. And I was too busy. I couldn't fit it in. There was no way. But she nudged me a little. I listened. I took some time and some breath, and I decided to do it and rearrange some things. And I'm really grateful that that happened, because I rekindled my relationship with Ari Weinsweg. And while I was there, I had the good fortune to meet Bo Burlingham, who I would later be able to become friendly with. And we started traveling around the country to learn from all these small giant companies, and just taking away little nuggets here or there, things that they were doing with their culture, and bring them back to Image One. And now that's like a program, the Small Giants Journey, which if you're not a part of, I highly encourage you to check out. And so all these little things added up, as Rachel stated at the beginning, to some recognition, which we're proud of. It's humbling. When we received the Forbes Small Giants Award last year, or excuse me, in 2017, I was in disbelief, and I still am, and even more so, very same feeling. Last year, we received the #1 top workplace in Michigan by the Detroit Free Press. And so, again, can't believe that has happened. I couldn't have ever imagined when we started this company that we would have that kind of recognition. We've had other recognition. Our turnover is extremely low. And that turnover leads to a lot of cohesiveness. And, you know, if you just want to look at it as a pure business standpoint, our results have never been better. We're growing. Our bottom line is super strong. It's never been stronger. We're paying out bonuses each year to our team. And I really believe that it all started back when we started to become more mindful as a company, as a leadership team. And it has led to, you know, actual business results. And, you know, side note, my family likes me better, and my friends like me a little better. And I just feel a little bit better being a person in this world. So with that, you can go into the website, donothingbook.com. I have a download there if you'd like to learn anything additional. And I'll come off the screen share now. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or we could go on with your day.
Any questions for Rob? Anybody on camera? Or again, feel free to chat them. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Rob, have you? I'm guessing you've kind of brought mindfulness into your company, obviously, but actually in like formal meditation within the company. And if so, like, how did you go about doing that? I'm interested in that.
Well, I treaded lightly because I'm so passionate about it. So I feel like I could have like overwhelmed. Like, come on, everyone's got to start meditating. But I actually decided to sort of check myself on that and allow for it to be more of an organic thing at the company. So I'm not shy about the fact that I meditate, and I'm very in the out front with that. And what started to happen slowly was that people were curious, and then, you know, I led a session with some people, and then some people caught on to it a little bit more, did their own investigation and started some things on their own, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, to make a long story short, I don't want to take up too much time because I could probably talk for 20 minutes on it. But at the end of the day, people just started to own it, and little mini groups started to pop up. I think having the Minute to Arrive was actually one of the things that I noticed, where people were like, oh, wow, like we're actually starting meetings this way. And then we started to start our entire our all hands company meetings that way. And so half of our team is remote and half is local. And so even the remote people who are all at their homes, or, you know, at a customer location, you know, we were actually like sitting there for a minute like we all did And, you could see how uncomfortable they were at first, but now they're just used to it. It's just a part of what we did. And one of the exciting things is I just see people kind of taking it on and raising their hand and say, can I lead the meditation or the moment to arrive at the meeting? And I'd like to add in a moment of gratitude. And, can I do this? And I'd actually like to incorporate some yoga stretching or, just those sorts of things. And so I've had it, in more of an organic way. We are going to do something a little bit more formal now that we feel like it's, people kind of get what this whole thing's about, and with the book and all that, that's been helpful. And so we call it Image One University. And we're doing an Image One University on the Simple Six is really what and meditation's just one part of it.
Thank you, Mike. We had a couple questions come in here via chat, and then I see you too, David. We'll get to you. I think this is about the retreat specifically, but the question was just in the US or also in Europe?
Right now, it's just in the US.
And then for the beginning meditator, when do you recommend meditating? First thing in the morning, last thing for the day, or whenever it's most convenient?
Yeah, I think, my experience in talking to people is, find the time that works best for you. And so I'm hesitant to answer. I personally like first thing in the morning before anything hits my brain. So that's just what I do. But, that's just, maybe sometimes that's not practical for people. And so, whenever you can find the time, there's no wrong place, there's no wrong space, that you could do it in the conference room, in your car, on a subway, on a plane, whatever. Whenever you feel like you can get it in is wonderful.
Great, thank you. All right, David, go ahead. We'll unmute you here.
All right, Rob, I've been threatening to come to your retreat, and I've been meaning to just get focused and write down the details and go online and do it, but. For me and everybody here, I know that you didn't want to stump it, but can you just once and for all tell me when it is again and all the details involved? Because I want to make it a point to this weekend take some quiet time and actually sign up for it. Okay,
it's April 15th to the 18th. It's a Monday to a Thursday. You fly into Denver. It's about a 2-hour drive. We have a car service, or you can rent a car. We have hotels in the area that we have relationships with, so we can help you with that. And you'll arrive for registration on Monday around 3:00, and you'll leave after lunch on Thursday. So, those 2 days, if you need to be connected on Monday while you travel and connected on the way home on Thursday afternoon, and then Friday you could catch up when you get back to the office, or if you have the time, stay in the area, and there's plenty to do out there.
Very cool. Thank you. And I just want to congratulate you. I know you called it a do nothing thing, but I had chatted with Rachel there, and I said it's really a movement. I think between the book and the podcast and the event and everything that you're doing, I believe you're starting a do nothing movement. So I think you should be very proud.
Thank you, David. That means the world to me.
Thank you, David. Josh, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. I saw you raised your hand, so you should be good to go.
Perfect. Hi, Rob.
Hi.
I actually had the pleasure of getting coffee with Rob a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I was curious. So a lot of times with, bringing mindfulness and meditation into someone's office, it needs a lot of buy-in from management and, HR and other people. Do you have any recommendations on I don't think convincing is the right word, but how to convince people to inject mindfulness, small and large, into their organizations?
Well, we talked a little bit about that, and I take a hard stance on that one. I do think it's important for upper level management to be bought into it, and HR isn't just trying to check a box because meditation, they heard it sounded like a cool thing, or a lot of times HR is really into it, and upper management says, well, yeah, if you can provide me with the metrics on what this means to the company, then, we'll invest in it. And my answer to that is, you're not going to see necessarily metrics. And by the way, if you want to, just Google it, and you'll find Google, as one of the examples that's doing it, and they studied it, and they've got all kinds of information in terms of what they're finding. Aetna has data online. It takes 2 seconds to find 2 major companies, and so we're all humans. We all work the same way. The data is all the same. There's plenty of substantiation out there. What I would say is you're going to be spending an awful lot of time trying to substantiate something when at the end of the day, just isn't it kind of common sense? Just kind of slowing down, turn things off, and just kind of sitting down and breathing, just stopping for a minute. I don't know. To me, maybe I'm too much in my own bubble, but to me, it just seems like common sense. Like you feel better after you do that. So I don't have great advice for how to get an HR person to buy into it unless they just understand the overall true benefits of it.
Thank you, Josh. There's a couple here that came in via chat too. What were some of the first steps you took after that first 5 minutes in the flower chair? What led you to what your practice looks like today?
It was a journey, and I did the research, as I mentioned. I actually found a meditation teacher in my local area, and I like to tell this story, and I'll do a quick job of it here, but she's also a psychologist. I made an appointment to go see her. I went in the office. We sat down. I sat on her couch, and she said, "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" And I said, "Actually, I heard you were a meditation teacher, and I just want to learn how to meditate." She said, "Okay, great. Have you done it before?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been trying it on my own." She asked me what I was doing. I told her. She said, "Sounds like you're doing it right. I don't think you need me." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm here to learn. I want to get better." And so she grabbed a couple of chairs. She said, "All right." And she took me through a 10-minute meditation. And at the end, I looked at her and I said, "How did I do?" And she just laughed and she said, "You did fine. There's no wrong. You can't do it wrong." And so I said, "Okay, I'll see you next week." And she said, "Don't waste your money." But I'm a glutton, so I want to do things right. So I literally made another appointment. I came back. She goes, "You're not back here to meditate again, are you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And it was like Groundhog Day. We did it again. And at the end, I was like, "Okay, this isn't as complicated as I'm making it." So, that was an important thing for me. I think if you find a teacher, that's great. And if you can keep a teacher, that's also great. Josh, who asked the previous question, they're doing, some really unique things. They have a meditation truck that drives around the Detroit area, and companies can come down and meditate on the truck. And they're also experimenting with some other technology that can help you with a teacher. I don't want to say what that is, Josh, unless that's okay. So, the apps are helpful. I think they're a great way to get started. I think, from my standpoint, I think they're a great thing to wean yourself off at some point, to just know that you can kind of sit anywhere and not have to be guided. Like, learn to guide yourself through it. You can do a little thing at the beginning and just settle yourself, and then sit for, 10, 20 minutes, whatever makes sense for you, and, or longer, whatever makes sense, or shorter. But that being the end kind of thing you want to maybe get to is maybe not use the app so much.
Great, thank you. Another one here. How does your family feel about the retreats? I think my husband would be upset if I went on a silent retreat instead of maybe a vacation with him and the kids.
Yeah, I had the same exact response. Like, what? You're going to go off on a retreat and just sit, like you're just going to do, and so, yeah, I had to talk that through. They did understand I was investigating meditation, and that I was feeling better. And so my wife in particular, obviously, she supported me, and let me try this and see if there's anything to it. And, I think what ended up, I know what ended up happening is I came back and I was a better person for a period of time. The retreats are very impactful, and studies have shown they actually help accelerate your meditation practice. And so that's why I made it more of a priority each year, because I realized that every time I was going on them, I was feeling like a better person, a more highly aware person. And, when my wife wasn't loading the dishwasher the way I think it should be loaded, it wasn't bugging me anymore. things like that. But I also felt like, as it relates to business, it was something that I needed to do because that's where a lot of my anxiety was coming from. Just, you all know, running a business is people, it's customers, it's competitive. It's, my business is, it has its challenges without question. And the other thing is, I always like to say, if you go on a beach vacation, let's say, and let's just imagine you're sitting on the beach, you have the book you couldn't wait to read. And by the way, for knowing you all, it's probably about business. And, you ordered a drink with the little thing in it with the umbrella. And so you order the drink and you're reading the book and the person walks by, you're getting distracted and you're back to the book. And then you're wondering, where's my drink? What's going on? Now you're getting irritated. Where's my drink? I'm supposed to be on this vacation relaxing. And then you're reading the book and you have 1,000 ideas and you're writing them down. You're working. You're coming up with all these great ideas, and you're not disconnecting. You're still fully engaged in life. You're still, it's all life, but you're still fully engaged in being having stimuli come at you. And the idea around the retreat is to actually undo that for a short period of time. And it's extremely impactful.
Okay, well that's it for this one. Check out more Fishbowls exclusively for the Small Giants community at smallgiants.org.